This program is brought to you by Real Estimate, Australia's #1 property value estimate. Get your real estimate today on realestate.com.au.
It is great to have your company here on Business Now on a Monday. And let's go around the country over the weekend and have a look at the auction markets. Nationally, 1,733 auctions and a relatively healthy clearance rate, which was just above 62%. In Sydney, I've got to tell you, it was also pretty good. 620 auctions. The clearance rate here, you can see, has picked up around 61%. In Melbourne, now the market there, it was particularly healthy, and that came after last week's grand final hiatus. So there was a bit of catch up there. There were 705 auctions, and just under 70%, you can see, of those were sold. In Brisbane, it's also picking up. 69 auctions and just under 61% of those completed. That's better than it has been in previous months. Adelaide, well, it remains incredibly strong. 51 auctions, 72.5% of them resulted in a sale. And finally, the Canberra, which slipped just a bit, just 42 auctions and a clearance rate of 59.5%. So let's bring in here Anne Flaherty, economist with REA Group. Anne, thanks for your time as always. A couple of things stand out over the week for me and that's coming, and also for property investors. Tomorrow, there's going to be building approvals come out. We saw finance completions and bits and pieces last week. But then on Friday, which is also interesting, overseas arrivals and departures gives us a clue about the migration rate and therefore property.
That's right. It's going to be an extremely interesting week. That building approvals data will be interesting to look at. Over August, we did see approvals increase by 7%, but compared to 12 months earlier, they were actually down over 20%. So this is really problematic if you think about the fact that our population is growing so rapidly. We know that over the 12 months to March, our population increased by 563,000 people. So unless approvals pick up, the issues we're seeing with undersupply at the moment are only going to get worse. Okay, so that's where building approvals come into it, because quite clearly now the government also has a stated aim of building 1.2 million homes from July 1 next year for the following 5 years. But the building industry is saying it's way behind that already. So those building approvals really do give some sense as to the task that's ahead for Australia and the opportunity potentially for property owners. Yeah, and unfortunately, building approvals are your best case scenario of how many homes are going to be developed. Because the reality is that just because a property is approved for development does not mean it is going to get off the ground. And we know that over the past few years, there have been projects that have been approved that just have no longer been feasible because of the increase in development costs. This is particularly an issue in the unit market, where we've seen a much more rapid slowdown in building commencements.
So I know anecdotally whether you've spotted this yourself, but you look in your capital cities, and I've been to a few of them recently, the cranes are starting to disappear. And that's a sure sign that really the building effort, if you like, taking place in those capital cities is really starting to come off. And that, of course, leads to questions about whether that pipeline of new dwellings is actually coming on sufficiently quickly.
Yeah, that's right. And look, we did have a big boost in supply, after the Home Builder Grant, which has sort of kept figures higher than they otherwise would have been for a certain amount of time, but that's really falling away now. Development sites are really taking a long time to pick up. We did see a slowdown in even development site sales, less demand from developers purchasing sites, which all again, it hasn't flown through into these approval statistics yet, but there are a lot of lead indicators that suggest that development activity is unlikely to really pick up meaningfully anytime soon.
I've got to tell you, always good to have you in the program. Anne Flaherty, many thanks for your time today.
Thank you.